Across Europe, alarm bells are ringing. Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic grimly predicted that Putin would not hesitate to use nuclear weapons if Moscow or its forces were threatened.
Some people who don't know President Putin say, "No, it is not true, he is threatening with an empty gun." People who say that are not normal. If the safety of Moscow is threatened, or the security of its forces is threatened, if he sees that there is no other way out, here I am, even if he gets angry with me now, but I tell you in advance, he will not hesitate for a moment and will use nuclear weapons.
As Serbia issues a stern warning, the fallout from Ukraine's Bryansk missile strikes, reportedly carried out using US-made ATACMS missiles, continues to keep the world on edge. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Putin of deliberately prolonging the war to destroy Ukraine and create chaos in the world. In Kyiv, Zelensky lambasted the G20's cautious stance, criticizing its failure to strongly condemn Russia's nuclear brinkmanship.
1,000 days, I think it's enough to understand that Putin doesn't want any peace. Even this day, this is the fact, not some such words or something like this, not rhetoric. I mean, even this day, they killed our civilians. Even especially this day, they presented nuclear weapons strategy. Why? They didn't present peace strategy. Did you hear it? Did you read about it? No, of course, nuclear weapons strategy. Because he wants just to make chaos in the world. He wants to destroy Ukraine not only, and some other countries of NATO, and etc.
Moscow responded with outrage, accusing the US of orchestrating a new phase of war, while swiftly updating its nuclear doctrine to lower the threshold for a strike in response to such attacks. Russian President Vladimir Putin formalized the changes in a decree, emphasizing that any attack on Russia, even by a non-nuclear state, would be treated as a joint assault if backed by a nuclear power. This is not just Ukraine's war anymore, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared from the G20 meeting in Brazil, warning the West that the latest escalation would provoke a strong reaction.
The fact that ATACMS was used repeatedly tonight in the Bryansk region is, of course, a signal that they want escalation. It is impossible to use these high-tech missiles without the Americans, Putin said this many times, and he warned about how our position will be changing if this range, which they are now talking about up to 300 kilometers, is approved. Today, we have officially published the basics of the nuclear doctrine. Everything is confirmed there. Now what the president voiced publicly for a little over a month is now enshrined in law, and I hope that they will read this doctrine there and not in a way they read the UN Charter, seeing there only what they need, but the doctrine in all its fullness and interconnectedness.
Lavrov's frustration echoed through the Kremlin corridors as Deputy UN Envoy Dmitry Polyansky criticized Western powers for enabling Ukraine's missile attacks. Speaking in New York, Polyansky argued that US military experts must have been involved in the strikes given the technical sophistication required to operate ATACMS missiles.
The US wants to put into the shadow the reality, the fact that if such kind of weapons is being used, it means that it is being used with the help of NATO. Because it's not possible for Ukraine alone to determine the target to launch this missile. It's common knowledge, and it was repeatedly acknowledged by Ukrainians and Western officials themselves. It means that if there is a strike, it's not only Ukrainian strike, it's a strike of some NATO country who is behind it, United States in the case of ATACMS. Look, I think we laid our position very clear and bare during last couple of weeks, and there are no illusions that such a move from Ukraine and from its Western sponsors is a deliberate escalation. I think there is absolutely no doubt about it. So there are people in Moscow who are responsible for countering and responding to this type of threats and attacks. And these people are not diplomats. I think that it's their turn to say their words.
The Pentagon, however, dismissed these allegations, with Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh reiterating that the US is not at war with Russia. While the Biden administration stood by its decision, it emphasized that Russia's updated nuclear posture, though alarming, mirrored rhetoric Moscow had been deploying for years. Still, Singh noted the deployment of North Korean troops on Russian soil as an escalatory move, warning that such actions would have consequences.
Be clear, we're not at war with Russia, and the party here that continues to escalate this war is Russia. By bringing in another foreign country into the battlefield, by bringing in over 11,000 DPRK soldiers into the fight, that is an escalatory action. And you've heard the National Security Advisor say yesterday that this administration told Russia that if they escalated this conflict by deploying DPRK troops, we would help Ukraine respond. Again, the parts of the war that has been escalated upon directly stem from Russia's choice and decision to invade its sovereign neighbor.
As the conflict surpasses 1,000 days, the shadow of nuclear escalation grows ever more ominous. Russia, feeling increasingly cornered by NATO's expanding involvement, has signaled its readiness to intensify the confrontation. In Lavrov's own words, Moscow's revised nuclear doctrine serves as a stark warning. If the West continues down this path, they must be ready for the consequences. The next steps remain uncertain, but the stakes are undeniable. With missile strikes reaching deep into Russian territory and Moscow recalibrating its nuclear policy, the thin line between deterrence and catastrophe grows ever more precarious.